Good afternoon, and welcome to the fourth episode and final episode of our AE2 Basics tutorial series. I do apologize that this episode has come out a bit later than the third one. If you haven't noticed, I made some big changes to the way that I edit, and it really increased the quality. If you notice, you shouldn't see the blur on the grass anymore when I move and stuff. However, it does take a lot longer to edit videos, to render them and stuff, so that's why it's, I'm not getting as many videos out, but I feel like the quality increase kind of outweighs that. So I hope you guys, and I hope it makes it a little bit better to watch and stuff, I guess is what I'm trying to say for you guys. But I do apologize that this video is taking a bit to get out. But this is the final one, so we've got a bit to cover. I've pretty much got everything in here, and it's a lot of the more advanced mechanics of the basics of applied energistics. So the first thing that I want to quickly go over is just the security terminal, because it's a pretty simple block, and we've actually used it in the past over here when we set up our wireless terminal, or our wireless access port. So basically the way this works is if you have one of these set up, people that do not have a biometric card will not be able to access your items. They won't be able to deposit, withdraw, craft, build, or do any security options with your systems. Now, this does not include you. By default, whoever placed this security terminal is immune to this. So if you set up your security terminal, no one's going to be able to access your items except for you by default. And then what you can do is you can create these biometric cards. So say you have some friends playing with you or something and you want to give them permissions. You can say this user can deposit, this user can withdraw, craft, build, and do security, and you'll notice that it is displayed on the biometric card. And so you could come over here and you could say give this to I don't know, Jim that you're playing with, and now Jim, if he has that biometric card, will be able to access all of your AE2 stuff. However, if you don't have a security terminal hooked up to your system, just anybody can run up and start accessing your items and stuff. So be aware of that. Of course, it's mainly a server item, so if you're on a single-player world, the only thing you're really going to use it for is setting up your wireless access point. Now, keep in mind, though, with the security terminal, that does not apply to breaking items. So if, let's say, Jim doesn't have a biometric card, he can't access your items, he can still come up and bust all your cables, all your controllers, everything. So this isn't going to protect against, physical vandalism, but people are not going to be able to access your items. So, just a heads up on that. Now, next up, let's cover the matter condenser, as well as the matter cannon and the color applicator. So the way that the matter condenser works is if we just set this down, and this doesn't have to be plugged up to your system. This can be plugged up, wherever. So we'll set it up, say, right here. And let's get, it does require power. So let's just get a creative energy cell and plug that in. Or no, this actually might not require power. I could be wrong on that. We'll test it. I can never remember. I use it pretty often, but it's one of those things I can never remember if it requires power or not. And let's make a quick cobble gem. Now, you can use any kind of item for this, but, generally a cobble gem is ideally what you're going to want to use with this. Because basically what it does is it's going to recycle items. Now, I will say that the item that gets recycled, the amount of bytes that you receive for that item is based on the amount of bytes that item would consume in your AE network. So, for example, to actually run this thing, you're going to need a card. I can't spell tonight. Or I can't remember what I'm typing, I think is the problem. So we'll just put a 64K in there. Now, you can do it with smaller cells. Or no, I'm sorry, not a storage cell. You need a storage component. Now, you could do this with smaller storage components, but depending on what you're making, you may need a 64K. So if you have this set to the trash can, it's just going to destroy any items that you put into it. You can change it into matter balls, which require 256 bytes per item. So if we look here, you can kind of tell the storage cell that you're going to need. So for example, the matter balls only require 256 bytes. You can craft those with a 1K ME. However, singularities require 256,000, so you are going to require a 64K in order to create the singularities. So just keep that in mind. Well, it's a bit more than what it can store, but it does require, I believe, let me double check. That may have changed, or maybe I was just always doing it wrong. Let me grab a couple of these. So the way that this works is whenever you put, say, cobble into there, it's going to use up that item. So let's grab ourselves just a bit of cobble here. And say you dump a cobble in here, you'll notice that we have 0 of 0 energy because we don't have space to store that. Now if we did it like this, you'll notice we have 1 of 8,192, so this is not going to be able to store enough. The 64K, yeah, okay, it does have to be a 64K. Those have 256,000 that they can store. So I was right on that. And then the matter balls they can be crafted in the 1K. And this doesn't require power. So, alright, so now that we're on the right track now, let's set up our cobble gen. And the best way to do this is just to set yourself up a cobble gen. Let me grab some transfer nodes. And I would generally suggest setting this up early because singularities do take a while to get crafted. Depending on how fast your cobble gen is and stuff like that. And this doesn't really have a limit to how much you can input at a time. It just pretty much immediately trashes it and you get some stored energy. But I would suggest setting this up early to craft some singularities for you, because if you're going to get into the quantum links, which we'll cover soon, you're going to want those singularities, and they do take a while to craft. So just keep that in mind. Now, you can set this up to extract the items, which we'll do for, say, matter balls. Now, singularities, they're not going to build up very fast. You can set it up, but it's not super important because they will stack. Now, if we were to set this to matter balls, you'll see that we are creating matter balls decently quickly. And we can just hook a chest onto this. And we'll get into in just a second what singularities and matter balls do. Oh yeah, this doesn't auto output. So let's get some, well, we'll just get a transfer node, that'll work. And set our chest down, and we'll start getting our matter balls out. Alright. And now the way that we can use matter balls is, let's say, we've got our, where are they at? Well, where they be? Well, we'll just grab them out of this chest for an example. So you get these matter balls. Now what you can do is you can craft these with dye in the middle and get yourself paintballs. So any kind of dye that, you know, all 16 colors are supported. So let's grab, say, some blue balls. And there's also these Lumen Balls, which these, I can't remember, I believe, I was thinking, there's no recipe for this. Give me 1 second, I can't remember, I never use them, so I can't recall. Okay, welcome back. So the way that these are crafted, there's actually no recipe for some reason in NEI, but you can just take any paintballs that you have and surround a piece of glowstone with it, and that's going to get you 8 of the Lumen Fluics. So, these, okay, they don't tell the colors on them. But anyway, these paintballs, there's a couple different things that you can do with them. The first off is the color applicator. Now this is another tool like the ones that we covered before that you can charge within the charger. Over there, And then what you'll do is, let's set up an ME chest like right here. It'll be fine. And then what you can do is you can load this color applicator into there and put your paintballs in there, and then we can pull this color applicator back out. And so the way this works, let me put another color in there so I can show you how changing colors works. Can we put, yeah, you can't put the lumen in there. Okay. Let's see. The lumen, you can't color things with those. So I'm going to test in just a second when we do the matter cannon and see if you can use it with that. I'm not entirely sure. They may not have a use yet. I know some people said that they didn't think they had a use yet when I was reading about them. But if you shift and just scroll on your mouse wheel, you can change between the different colors that are within your color applicator. And then what we can do is we can come over here and say we want these cables to be magenta. We can just right click to change the colors of the cables. So instead of having to craft your cables on the spot, like whatever color you're wanting to use, you can just do it with this color applicator so you don't have excess of a specific color. And this will use up the matter balls and a little bit of energy, so of course you can recharge it and add more matter balls whenever you need them. There is also the matter cannon, which we'll put that in there, and we'll try, and this works the same way. You can charge it within the charger, and you can load it with the ME chest. And we'll try, okay, you can add the lumen fluix to it. Now the only thing about the matter cannon, the color applicator can store up to 27 types of items, which it really only stores the 16 colors, I believe. I don't know of anything else that it stores. Unless I'm maybe missing something. But the matter cannon can only hold one type of item. But if you notice, it can store up to 512 bytes. So it can store as much as the color applicator, just only one type though. In this, if you just right click, you'll shoot whatever ammo that you loaded into this. And for example, let's grab just matter balls, because you don't have to actually make colored paintballs with this. If you shoot matter balls, you'll notice that it destroys big chunks of the ground. You can actually use this for mining. Well, of course I can only do so much before I hit bedrock, but if you notice, it does drop the blocks, so you can use that. But you can also use it for combat. Now if you notice, it took 5 shots to kill a pig. It doesn't do a ton of damage. However, the damage is based on the type of ammo that you use. So for example, if we get some gold nuggets, because this thing can use nuggets as an ammo type. So let's pull out these matter balls and add. No? Really? Okay, maybe not. Like, I never used this thing, but the wiki said, like, it accepts nuggets, but apparently it doesn't want to accept nuggets. Well, it's actually not wanting to load anything right now that it should be loading. There we go. Okay. For some reason, I had to take out all the ammo, pull it out, and then put it back in. So, okay, now it's accepted the gold nuggets. So if we come over here, you'll see the gold nuggets still dig, but we can insta-kill sheep and pigs. And let's see. These things have a lot of health. Well, there we go. Yeah, you'll notice we did 5 hearts of damage to it. So a decent ranged weapon. If you don't have another option like Tinker's Constructs or something, you could always use this, and it will break cobble and stuff, as you can see. You can also use it to cut down trees and everything. But I actually might use this more now that I've been playing with it. It's actually kind of fun. But anyway, that's the matter cannon. Now, another thing, just really quickly, if we were to put this in here and say pull out the gold nuggets and pull this back out, put it back in, and load up, say, our orange paintballs, you'll notice that it leaves little dots of orange on the ground. So, you know, just a heads up on that, it does leave colors. Now, it doesn't, if you use the paintballs, it doesn't really damage stuff and doesn't break terrain. Oops. No, I don't want that. If you notice, if I shoot that cow, it'll color it orange, showing that I shot it, and do just a minuscule amount of damage. But it doesn't break the blocks on the ground and stuff. So, but you can use this, if I recall, let me double check on this, but I believe you can actually use this to color your sheep. So let me double check on that, and then we'll be done with the matter cannon. No? Oh, it's got, that's right, it's got paintballs that just needs charging. My bad. Okay. That's enough. So if we come over here, it colors them red. I don't know if that's just temporary or not. We'll come back and check it in a minute. I believe it's just temporary, but I don't know. We'll shear it really, really quick. Sorry, we're getting a little bit off course here. We're just messing with paintballs. Okay, yeah, it does give you red wool, so you can use it to color your sheep. And it also, assuming that that's permanent, you can change the colors of your cows to orange and stuff. No, that's not permanent. Okay. But you can use it to change the color of your sheep. Anyhow, moving on. Enough matter cannon stuff. By the way, though, your ammo types are just any of those balls that I showed you, or any kind of nugget, that kind of thing. So next up, what we want to cover is P2p Tunnels. So I've covered these in my advanced series a bit, mainly just the ME tunnels, but there are, you know, more types than just that. So the way that ME tunnels work, let's find, yeah, we'll use like right here as an example. There's different tunnels. There's EU, Redstone, RF, Light, ME, Fluid, and Item tunnels. Now I'm going to show you how to set these up. I'm not going to set up all of these because they work the exact same way, but I will cover how you would set up, you know, say additional lines. Now the ME tunnels, if we were to, let's grab, oops, no. Let's grab some dense cable, and I'll really quickly show you guys how we'll use, no, I want brown. This is a design kind of like what I've used in the past, or shown in the past on my advanced tips and tricks setup. But let's say, let me grab a different color here as well, like blue. Let's say you have a line here and you want to move all 32 of these channels a long distance. Now granted, this wouldn't really be all that effective unless you're doing this with multiple lines, but let's say we had like brown, we had blue, purple, green, orange, red, rainbow, you know, the whole color spectrum right there, and we wanted to move it a long distance without using, you know, a line for each and every color. What we could do is we could hook up, say, an ME P2p tunnel, connect our dense line into this. So basically we have 32 channels going into this line. And then what we could do is we could bring this out and not connect there or there. And let's bring it out, say, way over here. And then we'll add our ME P2P again. And then let's get our brown dense line and run it out. And then we're also going to want to connect power up to this. So let's get just some quartz fiber. And let's bring that over. Keep in mind, quartz fiber only transfers power and not channels or any kind of data. So we've got a line here that is using 2 channels. That's because this P2p takes a channel and that P2p takes a channel. Now it only takes the channels from this line and not from this line. So this still has 32 channels on both ends. And the way that we link this up is we would just come over here, shift right click the first P2p tunnel, then come over here and right click it onto that. So now we have 32 channels, and we could bring this out and say we've got, like, you know, 8, 8, 8, and 8 like we've done before. And we could plug up, say, we'll put an ME chest over here with a, let me see, storage, 1K storage cell, and we're going to put a couple nether quartz wrenches in there, just because I know we don't have those in the system. So now if we come over here to our actual IE system, you'll see that we have those nether quartz wrenches, because what it's done is it's connected this line with that line. However, keep in mind, I know there was some confusion when I covered it in the advanced series. This is 32 being sent over to there. So it doesn't increase the amount of channels. There's 32 here and 32 there. It's the same. And if I use a channel over there, it's going to use a channel here. Because basically what it's done is, in essence, it has connected this line and this line across a distance. So it's still the same line. It's just being transferred through here. And the reason we do that is because now if we wanted to, we could say do another P2p line like right here and have it, let me see, another P2p line with another 32 channels. And generally I would suggest, honestly, I'm going to go ahead and do it because it gets confusing if you don't do this. But I would suggest using different colors when you send these out, like a long distance like that. So then we have a white channel, and we could bring this white channel out, say connect it to there, and then link these up. And by the way, shift right click just in the sky to get rid of any settings that you have saved. So we could bring this over here and link that up, and then give this power. And now what we have is 32 channels here and 32 there. So now we've got 64 that's being transferred down one line. So, you know, we could add another and another and end up having, 128 channels all being transferred down this one line. Now you could expand on this and connect, say, this blue cable into a dense cable. So you could support 32 P2p tunnels. And then what you could do is you could also, if you wanted to really go crazy, what I usually do is just break one of these, put an interface here, or a controller, and now you have 8 channels this way, 8 channels that way, so we can support 8 P2p tunnels, and then we could expand on it and make dense cable and do separate lines for 8. So, you know, if you did that, you could have 32 dense cable lines and 32 dense cable lines all connected through pretty much one line that runs through here. And so you would have, I can't remember the exact math on it, it's like 1,200 and some odd channels being transported through one dense line. So it's really nice for moving your cables, you know, a good distance around your base without having to make separate lines for every one. So I hope that that makes sense for you guys. I am also going to cover one other P2p tunnel, because the ME tunnels do work a little bit different, because the way that they connect, say, a channel to, you know, another line and all that. But for example, one that I really like using is, let's grab a block of glowstone, and we will use the light P2p tunnels. So what we could do is put down the P2p and put a glowstone block or a torch or whatever right there in front of it. And then we could come over here and say, let's add a P2P right there, and let's make it night as well. Now, if you notice, this area is not lit up at the moment. But if I wanted to connect this with this memory card, we can shift right click, save the settings, come over here, right click. Now it's producing light. And what it's doing, it's producing the amount of light that glowstone is giving off. And another good thing to note about the P2p tunnels is you can only have one input. So this one is importing from the glowstone. I can't connect that input to here and say another input to here and have the two glowstone blocks both pointing to the same place. And this is true of all P2p tunnels. You can only have one input, but you can have infinite number of outputs. So if I wanted to, I could put a P2P for light like all down through here and it all connect and work fine. However, I'm not going to do that because then we would run out of channels. So just keep that in mind. You can only have one input but infinite number of outputs. Now really quickly, let's briefly go over the different types of P2P and how you use them. So EU will of course transfer EU from IC2, and you can plug any kind of IC2 cabling into that and it will transfer the power. So any kind of cable will work fine with that. There is Redstone. That's going to transfer a Redstone signal across a distance, and you can hook that up with pretty much any kind of Redstone output. So a dust, a comparator, I don't know, a repeater, anything like that is going to send the Redstone. RF can pretty much be sent with any kind of RF cable. So you could use Ender IO, you can use both the Ender IO cables, you can also use capacitor banks, you can use like the dynamos from thermal expansion, you can use energy cells, pretty much anything that stores power or transfers power can hook into this and send power through that. There's light, we already covered that. ME, we already covered that. Light, pretty much things that produce light, torches, glowstone, stuff like that, is going to send light. Fluid, you can pretty much use any kind of a liquid container. You can also use like the BC pipes, stuff like that. That's going to send fluid. You can also use buckets, just straight up buckets if you want to. And then lastly is items. Items, you can pretty much use like the ME chest, you can use that, hoppers, BC pipes, interfaces, import and export buses, stuff like that has an inventory or sends it. Now, I don't believe that you can use like Ender IO item conduits and stuff. I don't believe that works because it doesn't physically send the item to the where the P2P tunnel is. But I could be mistaken on that. But I believe last I tested it, it did not work. So that's pretty much how P2P tunnels work. Now I will admit the only one that I really often use is the ME P2P, because I can always use other pipes and stuff to send things. And if I send ME lines, I'm sending items, fluids, power, all that. I can send that just through the standard cables without necessarily needing a P2P. So I don't tend to use them all that much, but that's just me. Next up, let's cover the quantum link chamber. And then we only have two other things to cover, but one's minor. Actually, let's go ahead and cover the ME IO port because it's fairly short, and then we'll get into the last two. I do apologize. I know this video is going to run long. There's really nothing I can do to help that. But the way that the ME IO port works, it's really nice if you're wanting to load up cells or unload cells, etc. Now, for example, right now I have everything in a chest, and I don't want to have to manually move all that to the ME chest or pull it out and have to put it back in the system. So what I could do is I could set up, say I want it all in this ME chest, all the items out of that chest. What I could do, since I have a storage bus on that, I can come into this ME drive, and you'll notice there's a little GUI here. And what this is saying is this setting is going to pull items out of the the cell that you put in here and send them into the system. And if you hit transfer direction, you're going to move stuff from the system into the cell. So let's set it like that, and let's put our 64K in there. And you'll notice now that 64K has, you know, some bytes used and some types used. And if we come over here, you'll notice that the chest has been emptied. If we put it into here, all of the items are in here. So now let's send this back into the system. We can transfer the direction, put this in here. It's going to empty it out and send the storage cell over to here. And now if we take a look, there we go. That's all we've got in there. Now another thing that you can do, if you don't want to just get all the items in there, you can throw this storage cell into your workbench and format it so let's say it only accepts ME drives. Now if we were to take and throw this storage cell in there, you'll notice that it gets one type. And if we throw it in here, you'll see that it only has the ME drives. So you can pre-format these, put them in there, and it'll pull everything out of your system and put it on the cell that it can accept. So that's pretty much how the I/O ports work. They're pretty basic, but they are extremely useful. Okay, so the quantum link chamber, the way you're going to want to set this up is what it's used for is basically setting up your AE system and connecting it a long distance without having to plug it all up with cables and stuff. You can also use it cross dimension and stuff like that. So you know, if you want to set up a base that's 5,000 blocks from here, you know, you don't want to run cables 5,000 blocks. So basically this is going to let you transfer it you know, a long distance. So what you're going to want to do first is you want to get one of those singularities that we talked about earlier with the matter condenser. And then what you're going to do is just throw down your singularity and an ender dust, which you can get that just from you know, crushing up an ender pearl. And then what we'll do is we'll set our TNT there, and we're going to ignite this. Pow! And now you'll notice that we get 2 quantum entangled singularities. Now what you can do, you can actually put these into an anvil and name them. So that way, you know, you can keep in mind which 2 go together, because if I was to make 2 more of these, I'd get 2 more quantum entangled singularities. However, these 2 are a pair. So these 2 are going to connect to each other no matter what. These 2 go together. And if I made 2 more, they're not going to link up. So you want to, you know, if you have multiples of these and you go to move your base around and stuff, you want to keep in mind which ones hook up to which other one. So naming them in an anvil, I do suggest it, but it's really just up to you on that. So once you get that, what you're going to need to do is you're going to want to hook this up, and it's going to require a channel. Let's just put it right here, for example. And you're going to want to craft yourself a quantum ring, or I'm sorry, 8 quantum rings, and then a quantum link chamber. These are fairly simple. I'm not going to spend too much time on the crafting recipe, but you are going to require these fluix pearls and stuff. But anyway, it's all fairly basic. So what you're going to do is you're going to run your quantum ring around, just like that. And then put your quantum link chamber there in the middle, and it's going to create this multi-block. And you'll notice that now this cable connected to it and everything. And what you'll do is you can just right click here and put one of your quantum entangled singularities into that. And then if we come over here and say right here, and like I said, this is infinite distance, so you can do this as far as you want to. And you know, you can always set up new wireless terminals and stuff. So that you have wireless access there and everything. But we'll build that the exact same, and we're going to put the other quantum entangled singularity into there. Now this does require some power, so let's go ahead and just hook up some cables, and we'll do, let's see, energy acceptor, and, or no, I've got creative energy cells, I'll just use that. But you could connect an energy acceptor in and have just some power ran to this. It's not going to transfer the power from that system to this one. Also, you are not going to be able to put a new ME controller. because basically with every AE system, it can only have one ME controller. We talked about that in, I think, the first episode. So you're limited to one ME controller setup per system. So I couldn't put another controller over here because this is part of the same system. It uses channels like the other system, and so on. So now what we could do is let's just hook this up. So now we've got power. And so now if we were to, say, run some cables out of this and hook up a terminal. Let's get a crafting terminal. You'll notice that we have access to all of our items. That is because this system is now linked to that system. Now keep in mind that your channel usage is going to be based on the channels that you have plugged into this. So if you say, you know, this is only plugged in with 8 channels. So if I was to use those 8 channels, that would pretty much be, you know, all used up. Now you can transfer your P2p ME network across a long distance and then have it break out and have all your channels. That's usually how I set it up. So, you know, we would have, instead of having these quantum link chambers connected straight into our ME system, we would have it connected into this P2p line, and then those channels from the P2p line sent a long distance, the memory card used to connect those P2Ps up, and then we would have a mass amount of channels being transferred across a quantum link chamber setup. So just a heads up on that. I couldn't remember if this would transfer multiple channels or not, but because I'd never set it up that way. I always use the, you know, ME or the P2P system for transferring that. But that is pretty much how those are set up and used. They're just really, really nice for transferring stuff, you know, that long distance there. And the last thing that we're going to cover is the spatial system, which I absolutely love the spatial stuff. Basically, there's 2 major blocks. There's Spatial Pylon, and then there's a Spatial I/O port. And let me grab a lever as well. Now, I've actually got one set up over here. These, you can build them pretty much as small as you want. Now, the smallest that you can build, is a 3x3. So if you did this, it would only use 1 block. So it would use this 1 block in the center is all that it would do. So there's not a whole lot of use for doing a 3x3 because the bottoms are not used and the tops are not used. So keep that in mind when you're setting this stuff up. But what this does is this lets you store multi-blocks or buildings or, you know, any of that. It lets you store that in a almost like a separate, it's a separate dimension and it's a separate realm. It's basically just stored within a storage drive. So it allows you to store your buildings, you can store machines, you can store your whole factory in a storage drive if you so desire. And the largest, I showed you the smallest that you can build. The largest that you can build is 128 cubed blocks. So you could do 128 down this way, 128 this way, this way, this way. So you'd have a big 128 by 128 by 128 cube that you could store. So a massive space, which you could store your entire base in this, and it'd be reasonable. And you could just put your drive, just set it inside of have it set up in a I/O port in the middle of a mountain that nobody can see. So you could have your base totally hidden and still have it built out big and everything. But now I've got this set up with spatial pylons here, and you notice it goes down 1 below the bottom of the house and 1 above. So keep that in mind. And basically you're just going to put these on all the corners and make sure, like for example, the area between these 2 pylons is not going to be used. So this, you have to put these on the outer corners, not interior corners. So basically this runs all the way around this house and then this little front yard area here. And the way it works is, let's say I'm actually going to add some nice grass here. Like that. And inside of here, we have a really nice house. This is like a 5-star quality, awesome built house. I know you guys love it. But I put down some redstone, some torches, some water, a chest, and a furnace. And let's throw some things in the chest here just to show you how really powerful this system is. So we have a bunch of different items and stuff in here. Now what we can do is we can set up a spatial I/O port, and we're just going to put it right here. And let me turn down this volume. I feel like it's super loud. I feel like I turn it down like every episode I make, and it's still, the next episode, it feels super loud. So we've got this spatial I/O port. Now in here you're going to see how much power you have stored in the system. And you can see the max amount of power that one of these can use. Because basically it's going to use so much power whenever you condense and store this multi-block, and it's going to use so much power when you expand it back out. And that is the maximum amount of power that it can use per operation. Which is generally just the stored amount of power that you have. It's going to tell you the required power, and this is how much power is required with this spatial I/O setup. So to do this, we're going to need 11.94 million RF. So quite a bit. This is a very late game mechanic, just for the record. And you're also going to see the efficiency. So, you know, this could be more efficient if I had more blocks built out and stuff, but, you know, I don't. So the way that these work, you're going to need a new type of storage cell, which is the spatial storage cells. And you'll notice that there's different sizes. There's a 2 cubed, 16 cubed, and 128 cubed. And you know, we could just use a 16 cubed for this because it's not very big. The 2 cubed, that's a very small space. It's unlikely that you're ever going to use that, but I guess it is possible. The 16 cubed will be 16, up to 16 in every direction. Of course, the 2 cubed would be a 2 by 2 by 2, so really, really small. So we'll just use a 16 cubed. And then if we were to apply a redstone signal to this, there goes our house. And if we look in here, you'll see that the house is stored in here. It says storage size 8 by 5 by 5. And if we were to put this back into here and apply another redstone signal, our house is back. You'll notice that our chest and our furnace still have everything in it. And there we go. Now, you can actually get transported with this. So if we come in here and we put this spatial storage cell back into there and we hit the lever, we're going to get teleported with the house. So I'll show you the dimension that you get sent to. So here we are. You'll notice that we can get out and we can walk around in this darkness. Now, I can't walk very far because the spatial I/O that I set up is only a 5 by 5 or a 7 by 5 by 5 or whatever. So I can only walk to the edge of the area that I built out. And same with going up. I can't go above the house because that's the top of the build. But if we come in here, you can see that I've got all my items in here. The water came over here intact. The redstone came intact. The torches, you know, everything is still intact. And even the way that this glass is set up, it's hooked to the walls. That is still a thing as well. Now I believe if the darkness was out farther, that glass would not be hooked in like that. So that's just because of the limited size. Now the only thing is, if you come into this dimension like I just did in a survival world, you're not going to be able to leave. Like, there is no way for me to leave right now. And of course, with this situation, there's not even a way for me to kill myself. So you're pretty much stuck in here. So be aware of that. You know, I can just do /spawn, but if you get stuck here without a way back, that could be an issue. Now, you can use any kind of a teleportation system to teleport you back to your normal world, you could also set up a system where that storage cell gets recycled back through, and you know, this is given a new redstone signal. Now, as it stands, if I just apply a redstone signal, it's not going to do anything, because this spatial storage cell has to be moved back out into there, and then this given a signal to bring it back. So just keep that in mind. It is kind of dangerous because you can get trapped in there. Okay, welcome back. I'm just trying to think of what, because it was one of those things, something came to my mind, I was like, I need to remember to talk about that, and then it was like, oh, it just slipped my mind. But what it is these spatial pylons, you're going to use these, of course, to set up the boundary that you're going to use. And you're going to want to put these on each of the corners. You don't have to put them, you know, along the bottom or the top. You know, it's pretty smart about it, so it knows that's a corner, that's a corner, that's a corner, that's a corner. Now, when you set these up, if you notice, if I just built one up, it's red. That means it does not work. So if it's red, you have a problem with the setup. It's invalid. So you know to figure out what's going on. Now, once it turns purple, that means that the setup is all up and functional. So if I was to break a few of these, you notice these turned red because it's not a functional design. Now, these still stay purple because oh, can you actually build that smaller? Let's find out. Yes. I did not know that. So you don't necessarily have to have this fully built, I guess. No. Okay. So I guess maybe as long as one of these is used to define the height, yeah, you can. Oh wow, I did not know that. Yeah, you would only need one of these to define the height. And then it's smart enough to know that it's going to be that high all the way around. I never knew that. So there we go. We just learned something new. And that would probably be true for this. No, you're going to have at least have two high. Okay. Because the way it's set up, it's not a multi-block until it has another connection. So, but the thing I was trying to remember to tell you guys about is that you want to make sure that, first off, that each of these multi-blocks have power. So you have to have a wire connecting to each one. So you're going to have at least 4 connected cables all the way around here. And they need power. And then the other thing is, you cannot set up multiple spatial I/O systems within the same AE system. So if I was to come over here and say build, you know, a little 3x3 right here, and then I tried to plug this into the system, it's not going to work. And that is because the way that the system registers all of this. So you notice all of these have power, but they're not turning purple. That's because I already have an active spatial I/O system. And now this one's went offline because it's trying to figure out which one am I wanting to use, you know. And the reason that is because it bases the system on how big of an area. And if you had, say, blocks here, then blocks here, it's trying to figure out, you know, is this another corner? Is that, you know, what's going on here? So you can only have one spatial I/O system per AE system. So just keep that in mind. Now, you could make additional ones with additional AE systems if you so desired. But for your primary system or whatever, you can only have the one. So that pretty much covers it. As always, though, if you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know. I do apologize again. I know this episode's running long. I'm not sure the exact time, probably 40, 50 minutes. But I wanted to get it all covered for you guys. And cover, these were kind of the more advanced mechanics of the basics of AE2. So we've covered now every single block in the mod, unless you count like Certus Quartz pillar stairs or something silly like that. But you know, we've covered, I believe, everything in the mod. But as always, if you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know. Even if it's not applied Energistics questions, if it's a different mod or whatever, feel free to let me know. If I'm not familiar with the mod, I will go and learn it and try to help you guys out as best I can. So feel free to let me know any questions or anything that you have. and I will do my best to get back to you as quickly as possible. So as always, if you guys enjoyed the episode or the series, please comment, like, subscribe. It's very, very much appreciated. And until next episode, do take care, and I hope to see you guys then.